Three True Being followed horror stories. This happened back in 1996. I was driving home from work one night. It was kind of late at night, and I lived in a house that was roughly 20 minutes away. So I recall that after leaving work, I become using down the street. And this automobile came up at the back of me. It changed into, nonetheless quite early on in the drive, however. I failed to suspect the car to be following me until maybe 5 minutes after this, when I became 2 extra instances. The vehicle remained with me. I'm now not sure, while this automobile started out following me, if it become right once I left paintings or afterwards. However, I did not recognize the automobile, and I failed to understand who this can be. None of my co-people lived by my house. This automobile became a white sedan, and it just looked pretty common for the most part. I sincerely couldn't inform who become driving. I kept going lower back, domestic, and I just hoped that the car would forestall, following me at some point. At first I become questioning that this had to be a mistake. Maybe the driver of the car thought that I turned into any person else. Or perhaps there has been a risk that they were not sincerely following me. By the time I had made it to my road, although the automobile turned into still there, and my avenue changed into generally quite quiet. So when I were given there, I honestly didn't know what else to achieve this. I drove to my residence. My plan changed into to enter the driveway, after which cross interior and desire that no person chased after me or whatever. But once I reached my residence, earlier than going within the driveway, I bogged down significantly. When I did, the auto behind me were given proper up in reality near. It have become pretty apparent that they were probably going to tug into my driveway after me. So then I just stopped in the road. I failed to assume that it might be an awesome idea to go into my driveway anymore. As soon as my automobile stopped, I noticed in my rear-view mirror a couple of doors to the auto behind me, opening. It appeared to be pretty much every door besides for the driver's. 3 guys then got out of the auto, and they all right now started strolling in my path. As quickly as I saw this, my instant response turned into to force away. I hit the gasoline and started moving. The guys were able to just about attain my vehicle, but then they stopped when I was transferring away rapid sufficient. After that, the automobile in the back of me began to transport forward closer to me. But then it quick stopped. Then the guys raced over and started getting lower back inside of the automobile. I tried to use this to my benefit and force as speedy as I may want to the end of the road. By the time I reached the stop, although I ought to see the car catching back up with me, and due to the fact there has been truly no one else out on the road, it'd be difficult to lose this guy. So I knew that I couldn't go returned to my residence at this point, and I determined to just drive around. I actually did not understand what to do or in which to go. It become late at night, and all of my circle of relatives and pals had been in all likelihood asleep. And don't forget, this changed into 96, so I didn't have a mobile phone. So I went lower back out onto every other avenue, with this automobile proper in the back of me. I was capable of quickly get onto a nearby busier road. However, there has been nevertheless no one else out riding. The automobile, with as a minimum 4 guys in it, changed into staying right in the back of me. I drove down this road for probable some other 10 mins. Then I noticed something that caught my eye. There turned into a gasoline station up beforehand that regarded to be open, and now not best that, but there were what appeared like automobiles getting fuel. I knew that I needed to cross there, and I pulled off the street, and then there was a quieter one, before the fuel station. The automobile behind me followed onto the quieter road, however, after I pulled into the gasoline station, the auto at the back of me did no longer. I went proper at the back of some other vehicle that was getting gas. Then I got out and appeared round for wherein the auto that had been following me went. I saw that the car turned its lights off and become parked at the aspect of the quiet avenue that the gasoline station turned into on. I realized that they have been probably expecting me to depart. I was happy to look that none of them were getting out of the auto, though. So I went inner of the gasoline station. Then I went to the employee behind the counter, and I requested him to name the police. After that, I waited interior for them to arrive. But someday, among once I went within the gasoline station to while the police got there, the auto left. It was maybe 5, 10 mins of a wait. When they were given there, even though I went out of doors and saw that the car become long past, I advised the police what had befell. There wasn't tons that might be completed, although after the police left, I became able to force back home, and luckily, well, to see the auto once more. I've usually wondered why those men had been following me. I didn't apprehend any of them, and I don't know what they could have probably wanted. I'm in reality glad that they failed to seize me, although this happened multiple years in the past once I was on a street experience. I become traveling throughout approximately 5 states, so it changed into a bit of a long pressure. I discovered myself touring pretty past you, one night time, in almost the center of nowhere. I turned into sort of winging it, and I could usually pressure approximately as far as I could each day. Then at night time, once I were given clearly tired, I could just prevent within the subsequent city and find a resort. I could ask in the event that they had any rooms, and then I would get one and sleep for the night. So in any case, it become quite late, but I wasn't too worn out, but I wasn't simply close to any towns both. And after some time I became definitely thirsty, so I noticed a relaxation stop up in advance. I took the go out from the toll road, and I pulled in. The rest prevent became right off the motorway, and it changed into a smaller one. There becomes simply one row of parking areas, and maybe 2 or 3 other cars had been there after I arrived. So I parked, got out, and went inside of this little building. After getting something to drink, I left the constructing. Just as I did, I saw this car pulling right into a parking area pretty near where my car became. I thought not anything of it, and I walked to my car. Then I were given inner and commenced up my car. The vehicle parked only some areas far from mine was walking, and the driving force was still interior. As quickly as I started backing up, I noticed the car backing up as properly. I started out riding away with the car now at the back of me. I did think that changed into a touch bit peculiar with it leaving literally proper after me. Plus it didn't appear like the motive force had even were given out to go into the relaxation prevent, due to the fact I knew the automobile wasn't there after I were given there. I got lower back onto the toll road, which changed into pretty quiet by now, with it being overdue. The vehicle drove proper at the back of me, on the street. It did not take me lengthy in any respect to wonder if this man turned into intentionally following me. So to put it to the take a look at, I started using pretty sluggish. I suppose I become going as a minimum 5 miles per hour under the velocity limit. The vehicle that become driving in the back of me did now not hassle to pass, however, as a substitute stored going at the back of me. I went down the motorway for approximately 20 or half hour. The entire time the automobile stayed right on my tail. I become sincerely surprised via this. I could not consider any purpose as to why someone might want to follow me. I got uninterested in it, and became nevertheless basically inside the center of nowhere. So after I saw another sign for a relaxation forest stall, I determined to visit this one as properly. I slowed down and took the go-out. This one changed into similar to the only that I have been to in advance. After going off the motorway, the car observed me, which is what I changed into afraid of. Then I failed to prevent in any respect. I drove proper through the relaxation location and then went again onto the motorway. The automobile that turned into following me did the precise equal factor. After that, I failed to absolutely recognize what else to do. I felt like several places that I went, the auto would observe me. So for some time, I simply saved taking place the highway. I likely went for every other 20 mins with the guide in the back of me for the whole time. Then sooner or later, the idea got here to me, to pressure, to a police station. I remembered it from somewhere, that's what you're supposed to do when you're being accompanied. Except I become inside the center of nowhere. I took out my cell phone and quickly looked for a police station. Thankfully, I had carrier. There was a police station a little ways up the street and stale the highway. I put within the instructions and then accompanied them. Within a couple of minutes, I took and go out from the toll road. The automobile behind me did the identical. Then I drove on this quieter street for a quick time, and then arrived in a small metropolis. And eventually there has been a police station. I went into the automobile parking space, and the automobile commenced to drive in after me. That made me worried. But then in one movement, the automobile became round, absolutely making a U-flip. Then it left the car parking zone and went back onto the street. I determined to enter the police station and just file what it came about. After that, I searched for a lodge. It became very late, and I became able to discover one within the equal metropolis. After that, I by no means noticed the automobile once more. I turned into able to retain with my avenue ride. However, I will continually wonder who that was that turned into following me and why they were doing it. This took place just final year. I turned into going to be assembly up with a chum in the city. I lived almost 10 mins far from downtown. That's where I changed into going. So I left my apartment and commenced driving on the street. My condominium was in this sincerely quiet avenue, and I bear in mind that as I was riding there was a car in the back of me. I noticed it because the car changed into purple, so it stood out a bit. Of direction, I failed to suppose that I become being accompanied at the start. I went on my manor to the town, and I wasn't even searching at the back of me for most of the manor. But after I left the dual carriageway to take an exit for downtown, I noticed that the identical crimson vehicle changed into in the back of me. I concept that it became ordinary, however, maybe just a accident. After making it into the metropolis, I by accident made a wrong flip. Driving in downtown may be very puzzling. Even though I had the directions on my telephone, I would still make errors in the metropolis every now and then, so I had to go around and head again. I did word that the purple vehicle at the back of me did the exact equal issue, and that appeared absolutely suspicious. So now I turned into worried that this vehicle become following me. But I failed to recognize why. I changed into also seeking to power in the metropolis, which turned into hard sufficient. I needed to go to the end of the road and then turn. When I did, the crimson automobile did as nicely. I wasn't so certain if I wanted to forestall and park and get out of my vehicle if anyone became following me. But then I got lucky. Or so I notion. The avenue that I came onto turned into pretty busy with a number of different vehicles. It become almost prevent and pass visitors. I was capable of type of escape from the red automobile because there were such a lot of others. I may also have cut any individual off and changed lanes a bit lots. But quickly, I got in advance of the purple car. There have been numerous cars in among us, and I was feeling better about it. Then I had to make every other turn, and I failed to see the pink automobile at the back of me anymore. Moments later, I arrived at where I became parking. I turned into, capable of find a few open spaces on the aspect of the street, and I took one. After parking, I began to get out of my vehicle, and then I noticed the crimson car. It become parallel parking on the aspect of the road, just a few areas in the back of me. My coronary heart sank. I decided to go to the spot that I was meeting my buddy at. I would simply need to stroll a couple of blocks. So after leaving my car, I commenced quickly taking walks down the sidewalk. Before I made it across the corner, though, I appeared lower back. When I did, I saw a man depart the pink car and start strolling in my course. He becomes sporting a black jacket and also shades. I continued to move toward my destination. I checked over my shoulder every minute or so. The guy followed me all the manner there. But he did not get toward me. He remained an awesome distance again. After arriving, I met my buddy and instructed her about what became occurring. I pointed the person out to her. Now, wherein we were, there has been some of other humans around. My buddy recommended that we cross and confront the guy. He could not do anything with these types of people round, so we both began to technique him. He became simply type of standing around in the corner, searching, inconspicuous. When we were given inside perhaps 30 feet of him, he became and started out on foot away. I notioned then that he changed into gone. We then returned, and forgot all approximately him. So numerous hours later, I become leaving. I walked returned to my automobile, and by way of now it become nighttime. But as I became starting to get internal of my car, I noticed that the pink car turned into still there. I stopped and did no longer get inner of my automobile. Instead, I grew to become and began walking inside the other direction. I heard an automobile door commencing, after which observed that the guy turned into getting out of his automobile. I couldn't accept as true, with that he had been there the whole time. Once again, he began walking in my course. Now, I started to walk at the sidewalk just to escape from the man. I stored going and hoped to get to a busier road. The specific sidewalk that we have been on changed into now quiet at the moment of nighttime. The guy stayed some distance again. I turned a nook and reached a barely busier road. And that is when I saw a police vehicle. It was parked on the aspect of the street with an officer interior of it. I walked immediately for the automobile. When I arrived, I stated hello to the officer and told him what became occurring. I seemed and observed the person going returned across the corner. The police officer then walked with me to my automobile. When we got near, the pink automobile drove away. After that, I changed into able to get domestic without being accompanied, and I have not visible the fellow or the purple vehicle seeing that. I still don't know how to give an explanation for it. I'm no longer certain why he became following me. It became very creepy.